Yo, what's up everybody? This is the 2025 VFR, Volley Factory Racing Team Bike, the Chapter 2 Coco. Let's get into it. So I've been on this bike already for thousands of miles. Yeah, thousands of miles already. I have been riding this bike nonstop. I have a lot of thoughts about it, but first let's quickly go through the build and get that out of the way. The first thing of note, we're gonna start at the front here, are the bars. These are not the Mana bars that come with the Chapter 2. That's because Mana bars flare weird and... Whoa. That's because the Mana bars flare weird. They're almost like gravel bars. They were fine on the tops. I think they were 40 on the tops, but they flared out to like 45 on the bottoms, and that was just a bit too much. So Far Sports reached out, and I put on these something bars. We're gonna have B-roll of them. I don't know the name of them. 38s on the top. I think they flare out to 40s or 42s on the bottom. That's the geometry that I like on my carbon one-piece bar and stem. Now, oh, and 120 millimeter also. That's just always been my sizing. Now, speaking of sizing, the Chapter 2 Coco is weird. For some reason, they've built this bike not really as like a crit banger bike, even though it's their aero offering. It is this relaxed geometry, long head tube, and I had to get an XL to get the reach that I wanted, which means I get this head tube and this compliance in the frame that I'm not really used to. It is not the stiffest bike I've ever ridden. That's probably the biggest theme about this Chapter 2 Coco is it is not as stiff as I would have liked. However, if you're going out and doing road races, if you're doing gravel races, if you're doing adventure riding, this is a great option for you. Let's talk about the rest of the build because you'll probably notice that we have fancy schmancy Dura Ace Di2 on here that I robbed from the Scott, except the Crankset. Now, the Crankset's this Rotor 2 in power. I've talked about it in other videos. I like it for a lot of reasons. 165 millimeter cranks means you're less likely to strike a pedal.
A few moments later.
If you guys know where to get a good bike stand, drop a comment down below so I can have a little bit easier time making these videos. What was I talking about? The Crankset. 2 in power, 165 millimeter cranks. I can pedal through a corner longer and I can have less concern about a pedal strike. And this has 54 tooth chainring because crit speed. No, the reality is we just go really fast at national level crits, and having a straight chain line makes a lot more sense. We have a very strange thing going on here with the Chapter 2. You'll notice this seat post is really narrow compared to the opening on the frame. That's because there is this insert that you can flip. And if you flip the insert, it changes the way this bike feels. On the bottom, the way I have it configured now is a rubber stopper. And if I flip it and now the rubber stopper is on the front and it's anchored here, you can imagine the amount of flexibility you're gonna get in the seat post, which I've already said, this is already a very compliant frame. So I've kept it in this more performance-oriented, stiffer orientation, but you can flip it and you can like really do some wacky stuff on this bike off-road. Number 6 wheels, I have the deeper ones on there now because they look pretty, but I also run the 40 to 45s when I want to benefit from another 100 or so grams of weight savings. 32 millimeter tires because that's the trend these days, but in reality we have a lot of bad chip seal roads out here, and this is just a better option for the roads that I do most of my riding and training on. So for the rest of this year, you will probably see me on the Chapter 2 quite a bit, but you might actually see me on the Windspace or even the Tavello because those are stiffer, more crit-oriented bikes, and that's the beauty about me owning this bike. I own this bike. There's no rider agreement. There's no agreement with Chapter 2. I like a lot of qualities about this bike. I dislike some qualities about this bike. So the final question then, is this bike right for you? Well, I think it's really simple. Do you like getting adventurous on some questionable roads, even some light gravel riding? With its endurance geometry, its compliant frame, throw some 32s on this thing and go to town. You will not be disappointed. But if you're looking for the best possible performance on tarmac, you should probably look elsewhere. Oh, and you'll need to be a DIYer or have a mechanic friend because these are sold as individual frame sets, not as complete bikes. If you guys have any additional questions about which races I would choose one bike versus the other, that sort of thing, leave a comment down below. And hope this helps. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one.